One more day shouldn't matter. That's what the judge said when he added a single day to my sentence. 364 days would have kept me in county jail. 365 days meant prison. And not just any prison, Pembina. I didn't know the name meant anything back then. My lawyer fought it, argued, begged, even threatened an appeal. But the judge just smirked and said, "Attitude matters, son." Turns out attitude doesn't matter when the walls start bleeding. The deal that wasn't. They told me Pembina was a low-security transitional facility, a fancy way of saying dumping ground for nobodies. The place was ancient, a hulking stone cube built in 1853, back when North Dakota was still a territory. 5 floors, 500 beds. When I got there, it was packed. 2,000 inmates crammed into cells meant for 4. The air smelled like sweat, rust and something else, something wet, like river mud drying in the sun. The first 3 weeks I didn't speak. Just sat in my corner, listening to the screams from the first floor. Every night, like clockwork, the men down there would start wailing. Not fights, not riots. Terror. The guards laughed it off. First floor crazies, they called them. Then one morning, the guards didn't show up. No breakfast, no lunch, no banging on the bars, just silence. My cellmate, Dante, was the first to say it out loud. "They're gone, man, all of them." We shouted down to the first floor, no answer, but we could hear something. Footsteps, bare feet shuffling on stone. 1, 2, 3, then nothing. An hour later, it happened again. 10 steps, then silence. The new guards showed up the next day, clueless. "First floor's empty," one said. "Transferred." But Dante gripped the bars, his voice low and shaking. "Then who the hell is walking down there?" The pattern, 3 months later, it happened again. Second floor, midnight, screams, gates slamming. Then silence. By dawn, the second floor was empty. The guards swore it was another transfer. But Kellen, the only decent one left, pulled me aside. "There's no paperwork," he whispered. "No buses, no records. They're just gone." That's when he told me about the rotten woman. What Kellen found, Kellen dug up old records. Pembina Prison was built in 1853, the exact year 2 priests died after meeting something by the river. They said it was a rotting woman, Kellen muttered. "She steals lives. And this prison, it's built right where she sleeps." I laughed, then the third floor screamed. And I stopped laughing. The night the third floor went silent, I stopped sleeping. It wasn't just the screams, it was the waiting. Every prisoner left in Pembina knew the pattern now, the heartbeat. A slow, rhythmic pulse in the air, like the prison itself was breathing. The footsteps, distant at first, then closer, bare feet dragging on stone. The red. The walls would darken, then glow like embers. The silence. And then another floor would be empty. The new guards, after the third floor, the night shift quit. GCG, the private company running Pembina, started offering triple pay for anyone willing to work past sundown. The replacements lasted 3 nights. The first guy, a ex-military bruiser named Ruiz, came sprinting out at 2 a.m., his face white. He didn't even stop to collect his things, just ran to his car and never came back. The second guard, a skinny kid named Harris, lasted longer. He even tried to help. "I'll check the third floor," he told us, flashlight shaking in his hand. Dante grabbed his sleeve. "Don't go alone." Harris laughed. "I've seen worse in county." He wasn't laughing when he came back. There's someone down there," he whispered, "just standing in the middle of the hallway. Not moving, not breathing." "Did it see you?" Will asked. Harris didn't answer. He quit that night. The third guard, he never left. The empty cells. By the 7th month, Pembina was a ghost town. 2,000 inmates had dwindled to 22. The ones left were the unlucky ones. No money for lawyers, no connections for transfers. Just us and the footsteps. Kellen tried to keep morale up. "GCG's going under," he told us. "State'll take over, move us out." But then the 4th floor started screaming. The night the footsteps climbed, it started like the others. The heartbeat. Louder this time, closer, the red. The ceiling above us darkened like old blood. The footsteps. But this time, they were climbing the stairs. "It's coming up," someone on 4th floor shrieked. Then, the worst sound of all, a cell door creaking open, not by a guard, not by a human, by something that shouldn't have been able to touch the locks. The last words from fourth floor, we pressed against the bars listening. "It's in here," a man gasped. "No, no, it's in my cell. Jesus Christ, it's—" Then a sound I'll never forget. Wet, ragged, breathing, right outside his bars. The last thing we heard from the fourth floor was a whisper. "It's smiling." Then silence. The morning after the fourth floor went silent, Kellen didn't show up for work. The day shift guard who replaced him was a stranger. Some temp GCG had scraped up from a security company 3 states over. He didn't even know how to work the gates. "Where's Kellen?" Will demanded, gripping the bars. The guard shrugged. "Quit. They all quit." That's when we knew. We were alone. The last guard, the temp, lasted 1 night. We heard him come in at 9 p.m., his boots echoing up the stairwell. By midnight, the heartbeat started again. Louder now, like a drum under the floor. At 1:17 a.m., the guard's radio crackled to life. "Unit 4, status check." No answer. "Unit 4, respond." Then, a whisper. Not the guard's voice, something older. "They're all gone now." The radio went dead. We never saw the guard again. The new rules with no guards, we made our own rules. No shouting, noise attracted it, no sleeping, you had to listen. No looking at the stairwell after dark. Will figured out the last one the hard way. At 3 a.m., he swore he saw something standing at the top of the stairs. A shadow with no face, just 2 pinpricks of red light where eyes should be. "Don't look at it," Dante hissed. But Will couldn't help himself. The next morning, his left eye was blood red, like something had pressed against it from the other side of his skull. He didn't speak for 2 days. The footsteps on 5, then came the night we'd been dreading. The footsteps reached our floor. It started at 11:47 p.m., a single scrape of bare feet on stone right outside Will's cell. We froze. Another step, closer. Then breathing, ragged, wet, like lungs full of river water. Will mouthed 2 words. "It's here." The thing walked past his cell, past mine, stopped at Dante's bars. For 3 hours it stood there, not moving, not blinking, just waiting. At dawn it was gone. But we all knew the truth. It was just getting started. The morning after the footsteps stopped outside Dante's cell, we found the first handprint. It was pressed into the rusted iron of his bars, 5 slender fingers, blackened at the edges like burned paper. The metal beneath it was cold, unnaturally so, even as the summer heat baked the prison. Dante wouldn't touch it. "That ain't for us," he whispered. He was right. The broken rule, by the 9th month, only 8 of us remained. The others had transferred. At least, that's what the paperwork would say. We knew better. You could still hear some of them at night, their voices echoing up from floors that were supposed to be empty. "Help us," they'd whisper. "Why did you let her in?" Then came the night Will snapped. The scream. It happened at 2:17 a.m. The heartbeat had been throbbing for hours, slower now, like a dying thing. Then, a crash. Will was on his feet, hurling his metal cup against the wall. "Show yourself," he screamed. The prison shuddered. For 1 terrible second, everything was silent. Then, drip, drip, drip. Something wet was falling from the ceiling. I reached out, touched it. Blood, fresh, warm, and moving against gravity, creeping upward toward the cracks in the stone like it was being sucked back in. That's when the red light returned. She steps inside. It started at the far end of the hallway, a glow like dying coals, pulsing in time with the heartbeat. Then came the smell. Rotting fish, wet earth, forgotten graves. "She's here," Dante breathed. The light grew brighter, and then she stepped into view, tall, gaunt, dressed in tattered black that might have been a nun's habit once. Her skin was peeling, strips of it hanging loose like riverweed. Where her eyes should have been, there were only 2 pits of flickering red flame. She stopped at the first cell, raised one skeletal hand, and the lock clicked open. The prisoner inside, a meth cook named Reyes, didn't even scream. He just vanished. 1 second there, the next, gone. The rotting woman turned her head, looked right at me, and smiled. The morning after Reyes vanished, we found his teeth. They were arranged in a perfect circle on the floor of his cell. Yellowed molars and cracked incisors, each one pressed into the concrete like they'd been melted into place. The air smelled like copper and wet earth. Dante kicked the bars of his cell. We can't just wait for her to pick us off one by one. But what choice did we have? The phones were dead, the gates only opened from the outside, and the last guard hadn't been seen in 11 days. We were rats in a stone maze, and the cat was hungry. The plan Will was the one who suggested it. She only takes one per night, he said, his ruined eye twitching. If we make noise, all of us at once, maybe she gets confused. Maybe she hesitates long enough for someone to... He trailed off. To what? I asked. Escape? The word tasted like ash, but it was the only plan we had. The waiting night fell. The heartbeat started at 11:03 p.m., slower this time, almost lazy, confident. The red light seeped through the cracks in the ceiling first, then the walls, until the entire 5th floor was bathed in a hellish glow. Then came the footsteps, closer, closer. Will nodded at me. This was it. The screaming, we erupted all at once. Dante banged his metal cup against the bars. Will howled like a wounded animal. I threw myself against the cell door, screaming curses. For 3 seconds, the prison was alive with noise. Then, silence. The rotting woman stood at the intersection of the hallway, her head cocked like a bird listening for worms. She took a step toward Will, stopped, turned to Dante, then she vanished. 1 second she was there, the next, gone. We held our breath. Had it worked? Then, a whisper right in my ear. Clever boy. I spun around. She was in my cell. The choice, her breath smelled like open graves. Up close I could see the things moving under her skin, shadows wriggling like eels in a bucket. She reached out one rotting hand and pressed a single ice-cold finger to my chest. Mine, she whispered. Then, the lights came on. Dawn. She was gone. But the mark on my chest remained, a black bruise in the shape of a woman's hand. Dante stared at it from his cell. She's chosen you, he said. Tonight she comes back to collect. The black handprint on my chest burned. Not like fire, like ice, digging deeper with every breath. By midday, the veins around it had turned dark, spiderwebbing across my ribs. Before we move on, please donate me in the form of subscribe. Dante wouldn't look at me. They always take the marked ones before midnight, he muttered. Will pressed his face against the bars of his cell. Then we get you out before then. The escape attempt. The plan was suicide. Pry open the cell door using a shiv made from Will's bedspring. His eye injury made him exempt from work duty. He'd been hoarding metal for months. Reach the guard station at the end of the hall. Trigger the emergency release for the 5th floor gates. Run like hell. We started at 3 p.m. Will worked the lock while Dante kept watch. The metal groaned, then, snap. The door creaked open. For the first time in a year, I stepped outside my cell. The air smelled like freedom. And something else. Rot. The guard station. The hallway was empty. Too empty. No guards, no prisoners, just the drip of water from a leaking pipe somewhere. We reached the station. The emergency release was right there, a big red button under a glass case. Will smashed it with his elbow. Nothing happened. Power's out, Dante whispered. Then, a laugh from somewhere above us, not human, not even close. The truth about Pembina. We found the files in the guard station. Pembina prison wasn't just built on cursed ground. It was designed to keep something trapped. 1853, construction halted for 3 months when workers reported a woman in black dragging men into the river. 1901, first prison riot. Survivors claimed inmates were taken from their cells by something that wasn't there. 1987, the warden's log. We are not the guards. We are the feeders. The last entry was dated 1 week ago. GCG knows. They've always known. The inmates aren't prisoners, they're sacrifices. The rotten woman must be fed. Will dropped the file. We're not getting out. Then, the lights went out. The final hour, the heartbeat started at 11 p.m. Louder, hungrier. The mark on my chest pulsed in time with it. Dante gripped my shoulder. When she comes, you run. Don't look back. What about you? He didn't answer. The red light flooded the hallway. She was coming. Midnight, the red light pulsed like a dying sun, throwing long shadows across the cell block. The rotting woman stood at the end of the hallway, motionless, her tattered habit swaying in a wind that didn't exist. The mark on my chest burned colder. Dante shoved me toward the stairwell. Go! I ran. Behind me, I heard Will scream, not in fear, in rage, as he charged straight at her with the bedspring shiv raised like a sword. I didn't look back. I couldn't. The stairwell, the steps spiraled down into darkness. 4th floor, empty. 3rd floor, silent. 2nd floor, blood smeared on the walls in long, frantic streaks. Then from above, a wet crunch. Will's scream cut off mid-breath. Something heavy hit the floor. And then, footsteps. Not running, taking her time. The door, 1st floor. The exit was right there, a reinforced steel door with a keypad. Locked. I slammed my shoulder against it. Once, twice, no good. Behind me the stairwell creaked. She was coming. I turned and saw Dante standing on the steps, his face pale. You were supposed to run, I whispered. He shook his head. Can't outrun hell. Then, the rotting woman stepped into view behind him. Her fingers curled around his shoulder. Dante didn't scream. He just dissolved, his body crumbling like wet sand until all that remained was a dark stain on the steps. The woman lifted her head, smiled, and spoke for the first time. One left. The offer, I backed against the door. She didn't move. You are marked, she said, her voice like river water over bones. But I am merciful. A skeletal hand pointed to the keypad. A trade. A life for a life. What life? I choked out. Her smile widened. Yours. Then, the keypad beeped. Green light, unlocked. The choice I could leave. Right now. Walk out that door and never look back. All it would cost was someone else. Another prisoner. A guard. A stranger. The rotting woman tilted her head. Tick-tock. The door creaked open. Cool night air rushed in. Freedom, just steps away. The rotting woman watched me, her hollow eyes flickering. Choose, she whispered. I took a deep breath and lied. The deal. There's still one prisoner left, I said. On the 5th floor. Take him instead. Her smile faltered. Liar. Check, I hissed. For a heartbeat, nothing moved. Then she vanished. I didn't wait. I ran. The truth. There was no one left on the 5th floor, but I knew something she didn't. Pembina prison wasn't empty. Not really. The warden's secret, the files in the guard station had mentioned it, a single name circled in red ink. Kellen. The only guard who cared, the one who'd stayed when others fled, the man who wasn't a man at all. The final sacrifice, I heard her scream when she found him, a sound like breaking ice, shaking the prison to its foundations. Kellen, real name unknown, age unknown, had been there since 1853. The warden's log said it plainly, the feeder must be fed. And now, at last, she had him. The escape, I didn't look back. The woods swallowed me whole, branches whipping at my face as I stumbled toward the highway. Behind me, Pembina burned, not with fire, but with red light, pulsing like a dying heart. Then, silence. The aftermath, they found me 3 days later, half dead on the interstate. GCG collapsed within a week. The official report said structural failure. The truth, she's still there, waiting, hungry, and when the next prison opens on that cursed ground, she'll be ready. Epilogue, sometimes, at night, I feel it. A cold spot on my chest where the mark used to be. And I wonder, did I really escape? Or am I just another kind of prisoner now? Before we move on, please donate me in the form of subscribe.